Hey guys, this is Juan Jaramillo, and today we're going to be talking about things I wish I knew before I became a realtor. A little bit about me. I'm a team lead with Empower Homes at Real Broker. I've served over 130 clients, probably 140 at this point. I've been a realtor for about 6 years now, and my mission is to empower and lead the driven few to the American dream. And it's something I really do feel and believe in. So a little bit, really, is the top 10 things that I wish I knew before I became a realtor. So it takes more work than you might think. That's for damn sure. Real estate looks easy from the outside. I mean, I know a lot of people think, you just kind of show homes and that's really it. You just wait for somebody to like the home and you kind of go in. And really the work starts way before you start showing homes. There's a 90-day sales cycle. Yeah, I can get into it, but you got to follow up. You have to prospect. And then I think the biggest thing, and actually the biggest stress when becoming a realtor isn't so much the follow up and the prospecting. It's actually, are you able to problem solve once you go under contract to then go to closing? Because that's really what you get paid for. I mean, obviously you're there to help your clients and to help your clients find a home or sell their home and then negotiate the best possible deal for them. But then after that, there is a ton of work that goes on depending on the transaction. And so it's just a lot more work than you might think. Trust the process and stay consistent. This is one of those jobs because you're really doing your own thing. If you don't wake up, you're not making money. There's nobody going to be calling you to say, "Hey, did you make your calls?" For the most part, unless you have a good support system. And even then, it's really going to be based on what you go and hunt. And so sometimes you feel like you're doing all the right things, but you're not seeing the results. And that 100% happens in real estate. That's where you have to trust the process. You have to not just do the right things for a month or even 2 months. You have to do the right things for quite a while, and then it starts picking up. Then you start figuring things out, and the results will start coming. But in real estate specifically is one of those things that the activities you do today really affects your pocket 90 days from now. So be ready for that if you want to become a realtor. All right, support is underrated. And you hear this all the time. I know I've spoken with so many realtors that support is important to them, but even with that, support is truly underrated. There's so much. I think the biggest one thing I love to say is the biggest risk in business, in real estate, especially in real estate, is you just don't know what you don't know, and that's what comes back to bite you in the ass. So surround yourself with a great mentor, a great team, a great brokerage. A quick little story. Shout out to Tyler Nassim and Engage Real Estate. When I first started with them, I called Tyler 3 to 4 times a day, and he made himself super accessible. And that truly, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be able to get kind of going to the levels I'm at now in my career. And so, you definitely want to put yourself into a situation or into a support system where you have somebody that you can call and lean on 3, 4, 5 times a day. Because as you start going, again, you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of different things is going to come at you, and you just really want to have some kind of support system that you can call. Have someone to call, kind of what I was mentioning. Have someone to call when things get tough. Makes all the difference in the world. You definitely want some kind of support system when you're first starting off. And even actually now, 6 years down the road, I still talk to my own team and get their advice, see if because every deal is so different. So you kind of start learning. You really learn from the deals that are tough. And so maybe one of the agents that you're working with has done a deal that learned something that you haven't learned just yet, and now you're in that same situation. You want to be able to lean on those kind of people with that kind of experience, even 6 years after you start. This business can be predictable. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions in real estate or really in business is a lot of people think it's just a game of luck. And it really isn't, even though sometimes it feels that way. And I totally get it. But this is not a game of luck. I think they did a study, and I forget which study it was, so I'm butchering it completely. But essentially, the result of the study is everybody gets lucky and unlucky generally around the same amount of times. It's what you do with it at the end of the day that really matters, that really sets you apart. And that's exactly what this business is about. So how do you essentially quote unquote make this business more predictable? Now, it's simple enough. Real estate success is a formula. How many conversations does it take to set an appointment? How many appointments does it take to set a contract? How many contracts does it take to get a closing? And then you just dial it back. Obviously, everybody's skills is different, and depending on the lead source, that is also going to be different. But you also keep account of that. You track everything, so you track your numbers. You'll know how you so you'll never feel lost. Here's a couple numbers that I want you guys to keep in mind of. When you first start, for every 7 appointments met, you'll probably get one closing. All right. So if your goal, whatever that number is that you have to do to make it full time, 10 transactions, 12 transactions, whatever that might be. In our example, we'll do 10 for easy numbers. If you want to do 10 transactions as a newbie agent or rookie agent, you need to do 70 appointments met. Now go find where to get those 70 appointments met. This is called the economic model. Look into the MREA book. It kind of dives deep into what the economic model is. But the economic model essentially is just like the numbers of what you're tracking: conversations, appointments, signed, contracts, closed. Just the numbers. Then you have the lead generation model that tells you where those conversations are going to come from or where those appointments are going to come from. Then we can dive deep into that. But that's how you can start making this business predictable. And that's how you can become purposeful about building a business in real estate. Okay, your database is gold. This one is huge. So, whenever you first start in real estate, you really don't want to be that person. And I totally get it. I totally get it. And you don't have to be that person, but you do need to reach out to your database. So you have to figure out, how do you reach out to the database without being that person, that salesy person that nobody wants to talk to because you're just wanting to sell them something, right? Um, it's simple enough. Like it is pretty simple. What we do is it's called the formula is the Ford or the frog formula, however you want to call it. It's family, relationship, occupation, and either dream or goal. And so the name of the game is going to be, really, the idea is reaching out to your database, getting those four items from your database to really get to know them, and then become the connector. Obviously, you have to let them know that you're in real estate, so you become the go-to realtor, and you just say top of mind. But for you not to be that weird person, go in legitimately giving a fuck about who they are. Legitimately, how's your family? How's the kids? I remember you mentioned your husband went on the surgery. How's that doing? Like really, you really give a fuck. Like that's really what it's about. And then you only have to ask for business maybe once a quarter or something like that, and they see it coming. And really, the value that you've been providing them throughout the whole conversation or throughout every touch that you do with them, I mean, it makes it a no-brainer. So make sure you bring value to the table. Make sure you get to know them and you care about them. You actually care. But yeah, database is gold. Don't try to skip it. I totally get it, but figure it out. Is going to be the easiest answer. Is database is gold. Figure out how to get the gold out of it. Figure out how to not be that person, but also figure out how to become that go-to person for your database. Um, Keep in touch, stay top of mind, and serve well. Now, for those who don't have a database, build it early and nurture it often. Building it is going to be more different lead sources. Obviously, how do you start building a database of a tile you don't know? I remember, so my brother, he's gonna have to travel a lot because his wife is in the army. She's a doctor in the army, and so they're gonna have to travel a lot. One of the biggest things that he loves to do is play soccer. So one of the things that he did when he moved down to Charleston, he didn't really know many people in Charleston, is he went to play soccer. That's how he built his database. So what are the things that you love to do, and then get plugged into communities where you're at, of other people that do the same thing you love to do, and then boom, you start building a database. All right, don't get sold on shiny stuff. Realtors are top targets for marketers. 100%. We're the easiest people to sell to because we always want the shiniest stuff, and we have a little bit of money, or at least a big commission. Be cautious of tools, software, and coaching that promise shortcuts. One thing we're going to talk about a little later is a lot of the things that we get sold for is marketing BS, and and I say BS. Let me put the quotes around it, is because technically you'll find somebody that's using that same BS that for us is BS, but for somebody else it's working. That's part of the problem. It is working for other realtors out there, and so their testimonials are technically true, but is it working for you? And it might, but be very cautious around it. Focus on mastering the basics before adding bells and whistles. A quick story about me and my career is I started with Zillow leads, and I did well. I did okay. I didn't do great. I did well, but I never learned how to actually properly lead generate. And Zillow leads, as it goes, becomes more and more and more expensive, obviously, because the lead is better and better and better as they get more popular and they grow. And what happened was once I left the Zillow lead generation machine, I had to learn how to actually prospect. And it took me a while to figure out, how do I actually prospect? How do I actually lead generate? And that was a tough time in my business. So be very careful, especially in the beginning of your business. It's okay to lead generate through Zillow or through, let's say, bottom funnel leads. That's awesome, and that's money in your pocket. But be very cautious, because many times I would recommend that being a means to an end, and you really want to know the basics like database management or database gold mining, if you may, or other lead sources that are more under your control, in case these big let's call it, these big businesses start changing up their terms and it no longer becomes profitable. Like Facebook used to have dollar leads, literally $1 leads, and that was awesome. But as the season goes, that $1 lead became $4 leads, and now it's a lot harder on the profitability. So if you don't know how to prospect correctly, that can absolutely destroy your business. So definitely keep that in mind. All right, green light, red light with your money. So back to, I guess, a pro and a con is, because we get such big commission checks, once we get one in, we feel like we can just spend it on marketing and think that's going to start, building our business. So we actually really want to pump the brakes when we start bringing in money and follow a system. What we did, we followed the profit first system. Check out that book; is an amazing book, and that forces us to be frugal with our money. That forces us to first find profitability and then expenses and then taxes and then everything else. So find a system, take a really good care of your cash flow, and only start spending more money once you have a track record of consistent income. If you don't have a track record of consistent income, just save that money, because in a couple months you probably won't have a deal and you're going to need some money to kind of do you over. And so we'll do another video about when the right time is to reinvest in the business. But for now, I think the best advice I could give you guys is, unless you have a track record, and I forget where I got this from, but it's from PBD, is, if you're don't look at the best months and calculate your budget based on the best months, which seems like, yeah, like, no shit. But I would actually say, look at the worst months and calculate your budget based off what your worst month is, and then go profit first from there. That will kind of help you guys save a ton of money, but also grow your business consistently, even over all this crazy market situations that we have. All right, GCI means nothing. Net GCI means everything. This is something actually that happened to me. So the first year or two of my business, I did okay. I didn't do bad for the first 2 years. I did 2.5 million production. That's not bad. And so I was always saying, like, oh, 2.5 million. That's what, 60K technically in commissions, right? On average 3%. Let's say 2.5%. $60,000. That's not bad at all. But in reality, it was like 30 or 40,000, based after splits, after fees that you have to pay, after all this bullshit. It ends up being only like 30 or 40K in your pocket. But if you're not careful, you're basing your budget off 60K, right? So revenue is not the same as profit. Definitely be very careful about that. And I fell into a trap. I got into debt. And needed Daniel, my brother, my business partner nowadays. He got me out of it, and thank God for him. But yeah, don't celebrate gross income. You'll see, we're salespeople, so we're always gonna hype up our numbers, always. If I did 2.5, I'm saying, yeah, I got close to 3 million. If I did 3 million, yeah, I was really close to 4 million. That's what us salespeople do 100%. But when it comes to budgeting and when it comes to doing smart business investing, you definitely, kind of like the advice I gave a little earlier, definitely go with what was the shittiest month you had, do the budget based off that. That way you'll consistently grow over time. All right, separate your business and personal finances. Get a separate account and track expenses early. I did a absolute shitty job of this when I first started my career. Now it's actually really clean. I don't know how we could do better of this. Thank again to my brother Daniel. But yeah, if once you decide that you're gonna start an LLC, once it makes sense to start an LLC as your own realtor, make sure you have a separate account. Um, Make sure you have a separate account to track expenses early on, and you don't want to mix those two expenses, because one of the reasons that you get, and I'm not a financial advisor or an attorney, so keep that in mind, but one of the reasons that you get an LLC is to protect yourself from lawsuits, right? Well, if you're commingling funds, if somebody sues and says, "Hey, they're using their business account for personal reasons," they can tap into your personal account all of a sudden if you ever get sued, if they prove that, and so that kind of defeats the purpose of having an LLC. So make sure you do things the right way, and also check with an attorney and an accountant with everything I say. Makes taxes, budgeting, and business planning much easier. 1,000% much easier. Go back to my earlier advice. Read The Profit First. It's an absolutely amazing book. All right, lead generation comes before servicing. 1,000%. It's tempting to pour all your time into current clients, but unless you're lead generating daily, you're building a short term business. Um, One of the things I think the big errors that new agents come into this business is they really, maybe they had a shitty experience with an agent, or usually it's the service end of things that they got that they didn't like the level of quality, and they want to up it, or they go into the business wanting to do the best service possible, which is 100%. Everybody's goal really as a realtor for the most part is you want to serve your client at the highest possible level. But here's the thing. Here's the trick: is if you first focus on how to service your client at the highest possible level, you're going to go broke before you ever service an actual client. So you're doing your client or a client a disservice, because now you're allowing somebody else who is lead generating and not maybe learning how to service their client, that doesn't have the same intentions as you do, get that lead, because you're too busy learning how to service a client and never lead generating. All that to say, I hope that wasn't confusing. All that to say is the first skill that you must learn or master is lead generation. The servicing the client one is essentially, it's fairly easy, especially if even though, not especially, but even though you might not know a lot about the actual ins and out of the contract to close, it's really easy, because the only question you have to ask them is, do you have any other questions? I might not know the answer to it right now, but let me go figure it out, and then go figure it out. And so that part is fairly easy. The hardest part is lead generating. Why somebody doesn't make it in this business is because they don't know how to lead generate. So that's the first skill that we teach the agents that join our team, is to lead generate. And then we'll teach them how to service the clients at the highest possible level. But usually people that have a struggle with lead generating already have a good heart and a good intentions to want to give the best possible level of service to their clients to begin with. And so all it is the how to's, and teaching somebody the how to's or learning the how to's is fairly easy once you have the lead anyway, or once you have the client officially anyway. All right, guys. So that was the 10 things I wish I knew before I became a realtor. I hope you guys got a couple nuggets out of this, and hope you guys continue to watch our videos. Again, this is Juan Jaramillo. If you're ever interested in the Greenville market, or have any questions about joining Real, how cool Real is of a brokerage, reach out to us. Please subscribe, comment below with any questions, and I'll talk to you guys next time.